Well, hello, everyone. I'm James Dobson, and you're listening to Family Talk, a listener-supported ministry. In fact, thank you so much for being part of that support for James Dobson Family Institute.
Welcome to Family Talk. I'm Roger Marsh. Family Talk is the broadcast division of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute, and today's program is going to be of tremendous benefit to you and your family, especially if you know someone who's going through the challenging season of infertility. As you know, expecting parents are so excited to see their new baby for the first time. They look forward to all the firsts they'll get to experience as well. You know, the first laugh, the first steps, and the first words. Sadly, though, it is heartbreaking for the young couple that is struggling to welcome that new child into their family on their own. And today here on the broadcast, we're going to continue a conversation with a couple who've gone through the pain and confusion of not being able to conceive and carry a baby to full term. And yet, through God's guidance and love, they have now opened their hearts to adoption. Robert and Karine Baltodano are back on the program again for part 2 of this powerful conversation. Robert is the general manager of the Bridge Radio, serving listeners in New York and surrounding areas. He served in pastoral ministry since 1998, and in addition to his broadcasting roles, also serves as associate pastor of Calvary Chapel Old Bridge in New Jersey. Karine Baltodano earned a master's degree in marriage and family therapy and in education and served as a middle school counselor for 10 years. Currently, she is managing her home alongside Robert, and together they have 2 children that are such a blessing. Recently, the Baltodanos joined our co-host Dr. Tim Clinton at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Orlando, Florida. Let's return there right now for part 2 and the joyous conclusion of this special conversation right here on today's edition of Family Talk.
Robert, Karine, welcome back to Family Talk. Again, what a program yesterday, but I think everybody's waiting to hear the rest of the story. And so, hey, let's just jump right back in. We're talking about infertility. Hey, up front, this is something that's about, 1 in 5 couples, 1 in 6 couples battle with?
Easily.
Yeah. And people don't realize how prevalent this is and the journey that people go on. Do you guys see it a lot in your own community around you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When they do hear about our story, then people are more open to talk to us about it.
We have good friends right now going through it, going through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, because it is a roller coaster ride, when you're not where we are. And this is just our journey. We're not saying that this is everybody's journey. This is our journey that God specifically put together, and everybody has a different story.
Yesterday, we got to the point where adoption was settled in as an option for the 2 of you. You finally get there. And knowing the 2 of you, you wanted to be private and let's go through this journey. But this initial phase, if you will, on the adoption process was pretty bumpy, and it kind of blew up on you. You guys mind telling us what happened?
Well, I'll share that our first journey started with Ted Humans, our adoption attorney, and he had said, we have 2 children that we would have to be placed right away, and the family is picking who will be their parents. And it was a whirlwind. We found out.
Private adoption.
It was actually, it had dabbled into foster adopt because the parent had passed away and the system had stepped in. Okay. But not so far that they were placed out yet. And so the family, the grandmother and uncle, were going to find the parents. They get to pick. So we got the call.
So you guys had to apply and...
On this one, it was different. Yeah, because of Ted Human kind of got us in front of the line, if you will. He was able
attorney.
To... Yes. Yeah,
you could get a temporary guardianship.
Right.
Gotcha.
Even without a home study.
Yes. So he had that case, and he thought of us as, hey, here's an opportunity for you guys.
So we went, we met with the family, we talked. It was a Thursday. We were going to find out by Friday, and the children would be in our house by Monday. It was a whirlwind experience, wow. And we were chosen by the grandmother, and we were super excited, and we're thinking, I need to quit my job this weekend. We got to go get a crib at Walmart. Like, we got to do everything.
We were in this 2-bedroom townhome in Newport Beach, and we're like, oh boy, here we go. And that's when God began to really bring this reality to my heart. I'm like, oh, it's going to happen. I'm going to be a dad. And so it really got me excited, right? And
Friday morning, we get the call that the uncle had chosen another couple. And the lawyer said, we can fight this. And we said, no, like it's the children are priority and we're not fighting this. And the uncle chose the couple. And then we were devastated and brokenhearted, but we got a taste.
It didn't depress me. It got me angry. And I said, we're doing this.
And that's when we did the home study. We jumped in, started doing our home study.
We got aggressive with it.
Got a lawyer, got our social worker.
It got me over. That was the tipping point for me. I was like on board.
Something.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did, and we said, if the situation occurs again, we're ready.
Yeah.
And so then I was reading Adoption for Dummies. And so there is a book. And in the very first chapter, if you're on the process of adoption, tell everyone. And so we wrote in our Christmas card, going through our home study, we're going to be adopting soon. Because we were praying for a family unit. We wanted like a family of 4 and done. And I really wanted orphans. No, I was hoping that like parents were out of the picture and we would be good. We were done. And then in our Christmas card, when I said we're going to be adopting soon, it went to some close friends.
Just pray for us is what we asked.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm at work, and so this is like the first of the year, and I get this phone call from our friend. Hey, I received your Christmas card, and I noticed that you guys are wanting to pray for adoption. But listen, there's a lady in the church who has a daughter who's pregnant. She's a believer. She's very healthy. She just unfortunately, got into some bad things, and she's pregnant now, and they're looking for somebody to adopt the baby. And it was surreal for me. I'm like, this is not that easy, is it?
Well, it was exciting.
It was, and I called you.
Waving our Christmas card, praying for us, and her grandma's there.
I can see it in your faces. I mean, as you're going through that, I can see what was happening to you.
Yeah, because I called her right away. I said, I just got a call from our good friends. They said that there's a young girl who's pregnant who is thinking about adopting her baby, and he's thinking of us. And her and I were like, we were almost saying almost no. I mean, that's how dumb we were, because we were so like, is this real? And we're like, well, maybe not. I don't know. We start getting scared.
Well, when someone is choosing to give their child up for adoption, the world is open. It's a beautiful thing, honestly. They can choose anything. And it's not like they lost their child and the system's deciding. So here's a situation. She got to call the shots. She can know that she was in control. And so we befriended her.
Yeah.
We loved on her.
We went out for coffee, and we were there talking, and then, we
Just
weren't thinking
her.
we would be the ones to adopt your baby. We weren't thinking that. We were kind of deflecting it. And then she's like, no, I want you guys to be the ones. We're both like, okay, it was odd. It was weird. Here we are, right? We're struggling. We're trying to get, wanting to have a baby and whatnot. And here's an opportunity, prime opportunity of this healthy young girl who wants to just give up her baby to adoption to us. And it was a weird thing. It wasn't hitting home.
There's a piece of me that wants to stop right here for a moment. Just put a bookmark in it. I wish a lot of the girls who were carrying babies and they were conflicted could hear the joy that flows out of people who would love to adopt their child. You see that? And I think about all those kids out there who have gotten placed in foster systems and more, who are lost, and how there are couples out there just dying, wanting to embrace them. What an opportunity, what a ministry. You know that?
What a privilege. What a privilege for us, because they choose us. It's not us choosing them. It is a privilege.
I'll go back to the human side of this, and that is the excitement, the fear, the complication of being rejected, and now figuring out how to keep going and be hopeful. Because I think there are a lot of couples out there in that state. It's like a grind, if you will. You've got to keep grinding. Take us through that. So
after we met with her, we finally said, okay, let's do this. We contacted the attorney that we had, Ted Human, and he started the process. And to make a long story short, we should start going with her to her appointments. Every time she had an appointment, either me or her together, we'd go and sit there with her. She's, she could see the baby, she's growing and stuff. So we're on this journey with her. But there were some moments that it was hard because she was also dealing with the dad, the father, who wasn't cooperative. And so that threw in a lot of issues in her life where she would be MIA. She would be missing in action for a while. Then we're like, oh, here we go.
Talk about a roller coaster.
Yeah. Oh, big time. And we're like, oh, it's not going to happen. So I start getting mad. I mean, we poured a lot of money into this. She's not returning calls. We're not hearing from her. They're trying to get a hold of her. And at that moment, we're like, we lost this one. And in my mind, of course, as a guy, I'm thinking like, we poured money into this so far. And I'm thinking like, now she's going to run off. And because there's still that chance. She could easily say, I don't want this anymore.
And that's a lot of the challenge of private adoptions, right?
It is.
Private and agency. The mother at any moment can back out. And it should be that way. This is a huge decision.
Sure it is.
This is not lighthearted. And I decided to commit to her that even if she backed out, our baby girl would be fine. Like we knew she was a baby girl at like 20 weeks. And then we decided to, because we got calls from Fostadopt saying, hey, we have 2, we have this. And it was tempted to jump off that private adoption and jump into, we can have them. But I said, we have to commit with her. She's going through this. She's making this really hard decision. Even if she changes her mind at the hospital, we've walked this journey with her and really, loved on her in that way.
So we passed through that issue, that little kink that we had, a little moment that I thought we were going to lose this opportunity. Then, we're at home sleeping. 12 o'clock, we get this phone call. She's in labor. We got up quickly, put on our clothes, and drove over. We get there, and there she is, and they only allowed one person in, so I had to sleep in my car in the parking lot. Said, because they're like, you can go get a hotel. I said, I'm not going to a hotel. I'm going to sleep in the parking lot.
Literally was outside the window.
So I'm just like, we had a SUV. I put the thing down. I'm sleeping all uncomfortable. She stayed in the room with her, and then she texts me. She goes, the baby is born. And
well,
I'm like,
the exciting thing about all this, you know how there's no coincidence. Like you think you have this plan, and our birth mom had decided, I'm going to sign the 24-hour waiver, but I'm also going to sign that I don't want to be on the maternity ward. I want to be up in like recovery on another part of the hospital. And we have all the lawyer signatures to do so. And they say, nope, sorry. You can't. If she does that, the baby's taken into NICU and no one gets to touch. And I'm thinking, this is not okay and this is not healthy for the baby. So we talked and she's like, she agreed, I'll be in the birth unit. And I said, okay. And I went to the nurses and pleaded the situation. I said, we need a suite. I need to be in there with her. She's allowing me to. And God opened up the suite because it wasn't available. They moved us in. I was in one bed with the baby on my chest and she was in the next. She needed to know the baby was well. And I would see our little girl, she would be resting on me and then she'd hear her voice and lift up her head, but then rest on my chest. And I'm feeding her and she'd hear her voice. And it was this thing, I know it doesn't happen in a lot of adoptions, but this miraculous 12 hours, even though you're in your car and sleeping, it was needed for our little girl. It was needed. And so it was sweet and it gave us away. And she chose not to hold her. She chose not to feed her until the very end when all the paperwork's done, we're signed out. And then they asked her and she said, I want to see. And she takes her little girl, she unwraps her and names all of the body parts. This is her dad's, this is her aunt's, this is like, and I wrote it all down. And to see like how loved our little girl was on. And of course we documented all this. Like I have a book with all these emails and texts and conversations. Wow. So she knows she is loved on.
And there's that connection. I had the privilege of meeting her today.
Yes.
And what a beautiful moment. And I think about the joy that God has brought to the two of you in and through her.
Yes.
In this journey together, the two of you decided to go ahead and adopt again. This is a unique story. And can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, well, our little girl, we had her. I'm super excited. I'm like, this is all I want. I don't need any more. This is it. And then my wife, of course, who's always running ahead, says, I want another baby. I said, honey, we just went through this. This is a lot, not financially, but emotionally. She goes, I found this ministry that they do embryo adoption. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, why go there? What is this? What do they do to you? How much is it? I'm going through all this stuff. She goes, I carry the baby. I was like, what? And she's just like, I want this. And I'm like, here we go again. I'm thinking, okay, what does this mean? So she explained what embryo adoption is. Like, you mean they're frozen embryos and then they insert them in you? And she's telling me all this. I'm like, and my head is just like, I don't, this is too much for me. And my wife, she's the initiator in a lot of these things. So I trusted her. I said, all right, how do we do this? And we started the process and she found a ministry a Christian ministry, who actually took our information, and all of our stuff went out. And I said, all right, here we go again. And then we get a call. There's a family who has 5 embryos frozen, and they picked you to take them. And I'm like, oh boy. And so here we go again. So now this is a whole different process.
This would be a snowflake baby
Yes.
adoption.
Yep, snowflake baby
He
adoption.
is official snowflake
He was
through
a-
Nightlight.
yeah.
Preserving life, because we believe that life begins at conception.
Amen.
Yes.
And so here you have 5 embryos.
5 embryos.
5 babies.
5 babies on the East
babies.
Coast that we had to ship over to California.
And it was really neat to know this, like that IVF couples that have the leftover embryos, they really only have 3 options.
Yeah.
1, to donate to an anonymous bank. 2, to destroy them, which 90% do. Or 3, adopt them. And the adoption part was awesome because we get family history. We get to know the process. There might even be some open adoption in
Right.
it. So I thought it was worth, I mean, it's minimal in the adoption world when you think of like snowflake adoptions, 8,000, private 20, agencies 40, and then international 60 plus. It was a great
Yeah.
option for us.
Yeah, so we got back on board. Doctors.
Yeah.
We searched for the best doctors that deal with this embryo adoption. The part of this process of preparing her body was not fun because I had to inject her, with was it progesterone, and I hate needles, but I had to do this to my wife. I had to inject needles in her stomach.
Practiced on a grapefruit.
Oh,
You practiced on a
hated that.
grapefruit.
People don't really understand this journey that people are going through.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is, because you're jabbing your wife every week.
Really?
Every
And-
day.
Oh, every day. In the stomach and then in the thigh. And you're going through this and you're just thinking like, oh, Lord, I hope this works, And so, you prep her. And so here we go, right? The first 2, we got a date. Okay, we're excited. Here we go again. And, they survive defrost and they insert him in her. And there's a waiting game now. Now you wait, pregnancy test. Okay, not yet. All right. Waiting for that phone call. Nothing. All right, we're waiting. Nothing's coming through the test, the pregnancy test. Then we get the call.
It was negative.
It was negative.
Heartbreaking.
And we're like,
because they tell you these are the most beautiful embryos. And that's, again, with our doctors, our IVF doctors, we would say, you're not God. God is truly in control. And we were like, you're processing, this is not your will. Okay, Lord, we're walking through this, but we were heartbroken. We tried again, did 2 more. They defrosted 2 more. They tried to want to put all 3 in. I said, no, there's not enough money in therapy for 3 embryos. So most people, 1 or 2. And so they transferred 2. And then we got our little boy. We got the positive pregnancy. It was cute when we looked at our pregnancy test. Our little girl was 3, and we were like, do you see lines? And she's like, yeah, there's 2 lines. You really see 2 lines? Like, we didn't believe it. Wow. And then we got the phone call.
And then we got the phone call. And I remember the day we start jumping up and down like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is happening. But
then
then again, then you think,
it's happening.
Pregnancy, then there's the miscarriage. So now you're thinking of that.
Fear of
now
everything.
you got several months to go through this.
Right.
And it was, because there was a point when we were, at the time in California, I was teaching at the church we were part of. And then I was also doing a young adult ministry. And after one of the ministry Bible studies, we went home because we were in Chino, and then we drove all the way to Orange County, and she started bleeding, and we were like, oh no. She comes to me, she goes, we got to go. I said, what's wrong? She goes, I'm bleeding. I'm like, oh. Took our little girl with us. We start driving. I remember on that freeway driving and looking at her, and I'm like, oh, we lost them, And I'm just trying to process this because we went right to the ER, got her in,
okay.
And of course, Google's the other doctor, right? So I'm Googling all these different things, and I'm like, I think I just diagnosed, this is what you have. We're okay. We're okay.
He really did. He walked in with his phone and says, I know what's wrong with her. And he's holding his phone. And he was right.
And the doctors come in.
Was he right?
Yeah, he was right.
No
it was
kidding.
like, hemorrhaging on the outer side. But they said, just take a rest, be careful. It may or may not, and you just, you trust the Lord.
And he wasn't touched.
It's in the Lord's
He
hands.
wasn't. It didn't affect him at all. And so that was a big scare because we were thinking, okay, here's another bump in the road. Another investment might go down the tubes, whatever. But
God,
our boy was born.
But God, and he's a fine young man.
Oh boy, he is a joy.
Got a lot of fire.
Oh boy,
a lot of energy.
I mean, it's incredible.
I know that you're speaking a lot of words of hope and encouragement to people today. 1 embryo left.
Yes. So to go with that, I got a year after our boy was born, I got pregnancy melanoma. And honestly, I feel like God was showing me why I probably never did get pregnant. You don't get those answers this side of heaven usually, but I do feel like that would have happened in my 20s had I gotten pregnant anyways. And so I couldn't carry. They said you can't carry. The next one, if you do, you could jump to stage 4 cancer. And some people, again, they're like, just do it. Let God take care of it. And we did not have
I said, nope.
Peace in it. And we didn't know what to do. Nightlight, you can return the embryo. We didn't feel peace about that. And a friend, dear friends, the husband and wife, Jonathan and Kaylee, stepped in and said, we really feel like we're to walk this journey with you. And like everything of adoption, it's a dance. You take a step forward. Does everyone feel comfortable? And she was going to be my surrogate. She went through all the counseling, all the lawyers, all the paperwork, everything. And honestly, we set it up organically, I could say, because she had 4 healthy children. She didn't have to do any of the shots. They just literally timed up her cycle, and then they were coming in to be able to transfer the next baby. It's an embryo transfer. And I prayed that morning. I did really lay it before the Lord. I'm like, Lord, if for any reason you're not wanting, for multiple reasons, I give you my heart. You have the right to take this child. And we went, and the doctor took a little longer, and he called us in and he apologized. He said, this never happens. This isn't usually what it does. And the embryo had passed away in defrost, and we're not able to do the transfer. And so we, all 4 of us, grieved together for a long time like that, because, you know, it takes her on a journey too to be our surrogate. And then it took us on the journey of relinquishing again a baby in another womb and watching it grow and being reunited. But
Yeah.
So then I feel like I could tell everyone we know about foster adopt, embryo adoption, private adoption, surrogacy. We've walked those roads.
Yeah.
I hope there's no more roads. But I don't know.
As I'm thinking about our closing words to our listeners, I'm thinking some would love to learn more about the 2 of you and your story, because maybe it would bring a lot of hope and encouragement to people. If they wanted to do that, where could they go?
They can email us, robkarine@gmail.com, ROBKARINE @gmail.com, or they can message me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Robert Baltodano. Mm-hmm. And I would love to talk to any husband that needs some help and help them process this, because they need to be on board.
I go back where we started with Hannah. It went deep into her soul. And walking through this, I know at the end of the day, the question is, how do we glorify God in the midst of the moment we find ourselves in? And that really is the challenge. God has done something special in your lives. And there's no doubt in my mind that you have spoken words of life and hope and encouragement into a lot of couples out there today. And our prayer is that God would give them that peace, that he would give them strength for the journey. Hey, on behalf of Dr. Dobson, his wife Shirley, our entire team at Family Talk, we appreciate you being so vulnerable, open and honest, and pray that God would continue to strengthen the family you've got for his glory. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. It was an honor to be on.
In Psalm 127, verse 3, we read, "Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. And believe me, they truly are." That was such a heartfelt conversation today here on Family Talk, featuring Robert and Karine Baltodano and our co-host, Dr. Tim Clinton. If you missed any part of today's conversation, please visit our website at drjamesdobson.org. There you can go back and listen to the conversation in its entirety. You can also share it with a friend or loved one who may need these words of encouragement as well. Now, before we leave the air for today, I want to remind you that Family Talk is a listener-supported broadcast outreach. When you partner with us financially, you're helping us reach others, as well as your own family, and maintain a strong Christian and conservative voice in the public square. With every dollar you donate, we are able to provide one more resource that can touch the heart of someone seeking God's love in a tough situation. And I am excited to share that for the rest of this month of June, we have been blessed by some special friends of the ministry with a $300,000 matching grant. That means that every dollar you donate this month will automatically be matched up to our $300,000 goal. Now, if God has placed it on your heart to give, just visit drjamesdobson.org. That's drjamesdobson.org. You can also make a donation over the phone when you call 877-732-6825. A member of our customer care team is standing by, ready to speak with you and to help you place that donation. And from all of us here at the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute, please know how much we appreciate your prayers and your faithful support of this ministry. I'm Roger Marsh. Thanks so much for listening today to Family Talk, the voice you trust for the family you love.
This has been a presentation of the Dr. James Dobson Family Institute.